All right, strapped in, everybody, because today we're going deep, really deep, into a concept that might sound a little, well, let's just say, out there. The mental internet. But stick with us, because what if those weird moments we all have, like thinking of someone right before the call, what if those are actually clues, hints of something way bigger?
Yeah, those little things. They can seem totally random, right? But what if they're actually pointing to a connection, a kind of network linking our minds?
Like we're all plugged into some cosmic Wi-Fi, sharing thoughts without even realizing it. Our guide on this journey into the mental internet is Terje Simonsen. He's a Norwegian author, the kind who loves exploring the edges of what we think we know. And his book is called A Short History of Nearly Everything Paranormal, Our Secret Powers. It's like a wild ride through history, personal stories, all about these, well, secret powers we might all have.
What I find really interesting about Simonsen is that he doesn't just touch on the esoteric, he dives right in.
Yeah.
But he blends it, with actual research.
Yeah.
Modern parapsychological research.
So he's not afraid to get a little woo-woo, but he's got the academic chops to back it up. All right, let's unpack this mental internet idea a bit. What exactly are we talking about here?
Okay, imagine this. A universe where consciousness isn't just stuck inside our brains, but it's out there, like a field, all connected. Like, have you ever seen Star Wars? Think of it kind of like the Force, a universal energy that connects everything and everyone.
So instead of being all isolated, our minds are more like swimming in a sea of consciousness, always exchanging information, energy.
Exactly. And in this mental internet, we can do things. We can download information like clairvoyance, or we can send messages. That's like telepathy.
Like a cosmic game of mental Marco Polo. But hold on a sec. If this is really happening, why aren't we constantly bombarded by everyone's thoughts? It'd be like trying to listen to a podcast with a million channels playing at once.
That's where it gets really interesting. Simonsen says we've got filters.
Filters? Like what kind?
Both conscious and unconscious, that help us sort through all that noise and tune into specific frequencies.
So it's like a mental spam filter.
Pretty much. Blocking all those psychic junk mail.
Makes sense. But wouldn't those filters be different for everyone?
That's what he thinks. He says they can be stronger or weaker depending on things, like genetics, personal experiences, even cultural beliefs.
I can see that. It's like how some people are naturally good at languages while others struggle. Maybe psychic abilities are similar, like a range of sensitivity to this mental internet.
Exactly. And just like we train our bodies, Simonsen thinks we can train our psychic muscles too, through practice and awareness. But what I find really compelling about him is his own story. He didn't start out believing in all this. He was skeptical, a historian who had some experiences that really made him rethink things.
Ooh, I love a good origin story.
Ooh.
What kind of experiences are we talking about?
Well, one that really stands out is about a psychic who predicted the exact height of a woman he was about to meet.
Whoa, hold up. You're giving all the details on that one. This is starting to sound like an episode of The Twilight Zone.
Okay, so picture this. Simonsen's going on a date with this woman he's never met before. And out of curiosity, he decides to talk to a psychic. Now, this psychic, she doesn't just say the date will go well. She tells him the woman's height, down to the centimeter, 1 meter and 64 centimeters, before he even knows.
Hold on. You're saying this psychic basically Googled his date without the internet? That's some serious intuition. So was she right?
She was. Simonsen was blown away. And that's kind of what started it all, that seed of doubt that led him down this rabbit hole of the paranormal.
It's like that scene in Men in Black, when Agent K shows Agent J that there's more to reality than meets the eye.
A classic paradigm shift, right? When your understanding of the world gets totally flipped.
And that's what makes this so fascinating, the possibility that we're missing a whole layer of reality because our current scientific model just doesn't fit.
Exactly. And that's where Simonsen's book comes in. He doesn't just rely on anecdotes. He brings in scientific research, history, philosophy, all to make a case for this mental internet.
So he's bridging the gap between ancient wisdom and modern science. That's a pretty powerful combination. But let's be real, for a lot of people, words like clairvoyance and telepathy still sound a bit, well, far out.
I get it. It's easy to dismiss them as superstition or wishful thinking. But what if they're just aspects of consciousness we haven't fully grasped yet? Like dormant genes waiting to be activated.
Like hidden superpowers, like the X-Men. Maybe we're all mutants with untapped psychic potential.
Yeah, like Professor X just waiting to fire up Cerebro and connect to the global mind. But instead of fighting Magneto, maybe we can use those powers for good, like finally figuring out world peace or how to fold a fitted sheet.
Okay, now you're talking.
Right.
Telepathic diplomacy and psychic laundry skills, I'm in. But before we get too carried away with our mutant powers, let's talk about real-world examples. Simonson's life, it seems like it's full of these synchronicities, those meaningful coincidences that feel like more than just chance.
Totally. Remember how he wanted to write his book but felt like he should get a student loan instead?
Oh yeah, the classic follow your passion versus be responsible dilemma.
Yeah.
So what happened? Did he end up drowning in student debt? Or living the dream as a paranormal author?
Let's just say the universe had a different plan. Simonsen was so torn about this decision that he talked to a friend, a psychotherapist. This friend had heard all these stories from patients about unexplainable stuff, and he told Simonsen to just go for it, write the book, explore the mysteries.
So, good friend, good advice. But I'm guessing a pep talk wasn't enough to make him ditch the loan and just jump into the unknown world of writing, was it?
You got it. He still felt that pull, the responsible choice, so he decided to text his phone company to get the number for the student loan office. But when he got the reply, it wasn't the number he expected.
Okay, now I'm hooked. What did the text say?
It wasn't the student loan office, it was the contact info for the Writers Guild.
You're kidding, right? It's like the universe was sending him a big flashing sign. Write the book.
Exactly, and that's how Simonsen saw it. Like a wink from the cosmos, a nudge from something, maybe his own subconscious, telling him to take the leap. And you know what? He ended up getting scholarships to help him out financially, and a top publisher in Norway took on his book. Talk about alignment.
Wow, that's incredible. It's like something out of The Alchemist, the universe conspiring to help you find your path.
Makes you think, doesn't it? What if those coincidences we usually ignore are actually signals from the mental internet guiding us?
Okay, I'm officially spooked now. But if we're all connected to this mental internet, why don't we all get those messages? Why do some people seem more tuned in?
That's a great question. Simonsen says it's like musical talent or athletic ability. We all have different levels of sensitivity to the mental internet. Some people are naturally intuitive, more open to those whispers of information, while others might need more practice to develop their psychic muscles.
So it's not like there's a psychic gene and some people just don't have it.
Well, he does mention the possibility of genetics, especially in families where these abilities seem common. But he says culture plays a big role, too. He points out that in many indigenous cultures, these abilities are acknowledged, encouraged, from childhood. But in Western societies, we tend to brush them off as imagination or coincidence. Like, it's that scene in Harry Potter when Hermione first mentions magic and Ron's like, "Are you feeling all right?"
Right. It's like we've been taught to ignore our own intuition, dismiss those gut feelings and hunches.
Exactly. And Simonsen argues that this skepticism actually makes it harder to access the mental internet. It's like trying to learn a new language when everyone around you says it's impossible.
So it's not just individual sensitivity, it's also cultural conditioning. We've basically built a mental firewall that blocks us from this network of information and connection.
Like we've put our psychic antennas in a Faraday cage. And what's even crazier is that he thinks our modern lifestyle, with all the information overload and constant stimulation, is making it worse.
We're drowning in digital noise, and it's blocking out the subtle signals from the mental internet. No wonder we feel so disconnected and overwhelmed.
Exactly. Simonsen says it's important to cultivate stillness and quiet in our minds, to really tune into those subtle frequencies. He suggests things like meditation, spending time in nature, even a digital detox, to reduce the mental clutter and open ourselves up.
So ditch the smartphone, meditate more, get back to nature. Got it.
Yeah.
But I'm still trying to wrap my head around this mental internet thing and how it fits with science as we know it. It feels like a big jump to go from brainwaves and neurons to a cosmic web of consciousness. Are we in danger of straying into pseudoscience territory here?
That's where the whole idea of paradigm shifts comes in. Remember Thomas Kuhn, the philosopher of science? He said that scientific progress isn't a smooth, straight line. It's more like a series of huge leaps forward.
Right, like when we finally realized the Earth wasn't flat. So you're saying Simonsen thinks we're due for another revolution?
In how we understand consciousness, Simonsen thinks our current scientific model is too limited, too focused on the material world. He talks about the work of physicists like David Bohm, who proposed the holographic principle, the idea that every part of the universe contains info about the whole, like a cosmic hologram where even the tiniest fragment reflects the entire image.
Whoa, mind blown. So if the universe is like a hologram, And consciousness is part of the fabric of the universe.
Hmm.
Does that mean our minds are holographic too?
That's a big question, one that's still being debated. But it's an amazing idea to consider. What if our minds aren't just isolated units, but interconnected nodes within this vast holographic network of consciousness?
So less like separate computers and more like one giant interconnected supercomputer, with each of us as a node.
Exactly. And within this framework, things like telepathy and clairvoyance, they become less paranormal and more like accessing different levels of information within the same system.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this all fits together, but let's bring it back down to earth for a minute. How does this mental internet work in practice? If we're downloading information from this cosmic library, how do we know what's real and what's just our imagination? We've all seen what happens when Neo gets plugged into the Matrix. Things can get glitchy.
That's where discernment comes in, and Simonsen really emphasizes this. He talks about trusting your intuition, but also being aware of biases and potential traps. He even shares some cautionary tales about people who went too far down the rabbit hole and lost touch with reality.
Ooh, I do love a good cautionary tale. What kind of red flags should we be looking out for?
Well, he advises extra caution for people with mental health conditions, especially those prone to psychosis or delusions. He says that exploring the paranormal can be overwhelming for people who are already struggling to tell the difference between internal and external reality.
That makes sense. If your mental firewall is already weak, you don't want to be inviting random psychic downloads, like those warnings on psychedelics. Not for the faint of heart.
Exactly. But even for those of us with, let's say, relatively stable minds, Simonsen says it's crucial to stay grounded, connected to the physical world. He gives an example of this famous Norwegian psychic who was so bombarded by other people's thoughts and emotions that it was incredibly draining, and she had to practice these strict grounding techniques just to keep her own mental well-being intact.
Wow, that sounds intense. Like having your empathy dial turned up to 11 all the time. No wonder she needed some grounding. So it's not all sunshine and roses in the mental internet. There are some potential downsides.
Definitely. Like any powerful tool, the mental internet can be misused. Simonsen warns against getting caught up in ego-driven pursuits or using these abilities for selfish reasons. He says the real power of the mental internet is in its potential for compassion, understanding, connection.
Okay, so it's not about winning the lottery with psychic powers or reading your boss's mind to get a promotion. It's about using this connection to become a better, more compassionate person. That's actually pretty inspiring.
It is, and it reminds me of something Carl Jung, the psychologist, once said. The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. I think that quote really captures the potential of the mental internet. When we truly connect, we change each other, and we change ourselves in the process.
That's beautiful. A cosmic butterfly effect, but instead of flapping wings, we're exchanging thoughts and emotions. So how do we start cultivating this connection? Do we need to go on a silent retreat or find a shaman?
Well, Simonsen says we can start by paying more attention to our intuition, practicing mindfulness, being more aware of the subtle connections that already exist between us.
Like those times when you know what someone's going to say before they say it, or you have a really strong gut feeling about something. We often dismiss those as coincidence, but maybe they're glimpses of the mental internet at work.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe with a little practice, we can all become mental internet masters.
Okay, so let's say we buy into this whole mental internet idea. We're all swimming in it, sending out psychic ripples, picking up on vibes. Can we, like, hack the system, boost our signal, filter out the noise? Is there a psychic VPN out there somewhere?
Well, now we're getting into some more speculative territory. But it's also where things get really interesting. Simonsen explores some practices, techniques that have been used for ages to try and enhance those connections.
Ancient secrets, huh? Are we talking crystal balls and tarot cards here? Or should I start wearing a tinfoil hat to amplify my psychic reception?
Think more along the lines of meditation, dream work, energy practices. Simonsen points out that these traditions, you find them in spiritual teachings, esoteric stuff. They might actually be tapping into the same mechanisms as the mental internet.
So that image of a monk meditating in a cave, not so different from a techie coding in their basement, both trying to connect to something deeper, just with different tools.
Yeah, that's a cool way to think about it. And Simonsen believes these ancient techniques could be more valuable than ever, especially in our world, with all the tech and information overload.
Makes sense. We're so used to instant everything that we've lost touch with those quiet, intuitive whispers from our own minds, let alone the cosmos.
Exactly. And that's where things like meditation come in. They help us calm the mental noise, tune into our inner world, become more sensitive to those subtle signals.
Like switching from a crowded radio frequency to a clear channel. Finally figuring out the do not disturb setting for your brain.
Perfect analogy. Simonsen even talks about dream work, how it could play a role. He says our dreams might be like a back door to the mental internet, where the filters of our waking mind are less active.
Dreams. Now you're speaking my language. I've always been fascinated by dreams, but they're so slippery. It's like trying to remember the plot of a David Lynch film. Intriguing, but totally baffling. So how do we even make sense of them, let alone use them to tap into this mental internet?
He suggests keeping a dream journal, noticing any recurring symbols or themes, even trying techniques like lucid dreaming, becoming aware that you're dreaming while you're in the dream.
Lucid dreaming. That's some serious consciousness hacking. Imagine being able to explore the mental internet through your dreams. It'd be like having a private portal to the cosmic library.
The possibilities are pretty wild, right? But Simonsen also cautions that we need to approach these practices with respect. He compares it to exploring the physical world. You wouldn't just wander into the wilderness without a map, the right gear, and a healthy dose of respect for the dangers.
So treat the mental internet like a wilderness, not a theme park. No psychic bumper cars or cotton candy.
Exactly. It's about exploration, not exploitation. And your most important tool is intuition. Trust your gut, pay attention to those subtle nudges, and don't be afraid to question everything.
Solid advice. And that's what I appreciate about Simonsen's approach. He doesn't present these ideas as some kind of absolute truth. He encourages critical thinking, skepticism, personal exploration. He's basically giving us a map and a compass and saying, go explore, but watch out for those psychic yetis.
I love that. He's not trying to convert anyone, just offering a new perspective, a way to see the world and ourselves that embraces the mysteries of consciousness and the interconnectedness of everything.
And who knows, maybe this is just the start of something new for humanity, where we move beyond our physical senses and tap into the full potential of the mental internet. Like we're all waiting for that software update that unlocks our hidden psychic abilities.
Imagine a world where we can sense each other's needs, collaborate on a global level, through shared consciousness, access information from the collective wisdom of humanity.
Sounds like science fiction. But as we've seen today, what seems impossible now could be normal in the future. And even if we don't all become psychic superheroes overnight, exploring the mental internet can still make our lives richer, more meaningful. Who wouldn't want more intuition, more connection?
Couldn't agree more. It can help us understand ourselves better, boost our creativity, our intuition, and even foster more compassion, a deeper connection with the world around us.
So to all our listeners out there, keep an open mind. Pay attention to those weird moments, maybe even try some of those ancient practices. You might be surprised how connected you already are to the mental internet.
And if you have any strange or insightful experiences, we'd love to hear about them. Share your stories on our website or social media. We're all on this journey together, exploring this amazing, uncharted territory of consciousness.
Until next time, fellow deep divers, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep those psychic antennas tuned in. You never know what you might discover on the mental internet.